I would like to say a word in English, particularly because the UN Human Rights Council resolution is coming up for discussion again at the United Nations at its biannual sessions, which are due in a few days' time. We know that on the 24th of March 2021, the United Nations Human Rights Council passed a resolution on Sri Lanka, and its main concern was to do with the violation of human rights. This violation of human rights had much to do with the performance of the present government in the last 1.5 years, and not just the historical issues relating to the war. And sometimes this point is missed. And therefore, the government needed to take certain steps. We have seen that the government has recently taken some steps which are looking like token steps rather than actually meaningful steps. I saw the Justice Minister opening a website for the Office of the National Unity and Reconciliation. It's 12 years after the war, right? It's good if the website was relaunched, but these are not substantial steps. The Cabinet approved recently guidelines for the Office of Reparations, and we must welcome that, even though this is very, very late, right, in terms of the Office of Reparations, that this has been done, but it's a positive step in the right direction. But we need to go really further on this. There are fundamental issues that the Office of Reparations must look at. We see that in the Office of Reparations, there was a budget in 2021 allocated 900 million rupees, 800 million rupees was going largely to pay compensation to those who suffered losses during the conflict. But the issues are more fundamental. There are outstanding issues like the memorialization of the dead. The memorialization of the dead is important to families. This is worldwide, this is natural, this is human. And therefore there has been some controversy in this country where some memorials have been basically destroyed. I think this week we had a lesson in this. In New Zealand, we saw a Sri Lankan national who migrated from this country just 10 years ago go into a supermarket in New Zealand and attempt to kill 5 people, some of who are in a critical stage in a New Zealand hospital. There was a lesson for all of us in that the New Zealand Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, said that this has nothing to do with the Sri Lankan community in New Zealand. They should not be a target. Terrorism is not a racial issue or a religious issue, or don't make it a racial or religious issue. Terrorism is terrorism. Terrorism is where somebody, to further their political aims, takes the life of somebody else. In Sri Lanka, terrorism is terrorism, whether it is Sinhala extremism, Muslim extremism, or Tamil extremism. Terrorism promotes hatred, and democracy must promote an inclusive society and love, Jacinda Ardern said. This is a lesson for all of us. Sometimes we view things with 2 eyes. When it is the Sinhala leaders who have in the past committed the atrocities of destroying lives, their memorialization is justified by the memorialization of other communities, is not often treated with the due respect and space. So this we must change. It's 12 years after the war. Sri Lanka was move on. Also, I would like to say that in our reparations policy, we must particularly pay attention to sexual and gender-based violence that has been committed during a conflict period. We have to pay attention to that because that's important, that is also recognized in the reparations policy. I would commend the government that it has made a start, but it needs to take it forward and face up to the hard issues. We have had enough of racism, of religious bigotry, and casteism. We must create a new Sri Lanka. We in the opposition are committed to create a new Sri Lanka. Then also I saw that there was another office of the missing persons being opened in Kilinochchi, which is also a good thing. But I often wonder why these things are kept in the last minute rather than these things being done. Not as tokens, but done as meaningful things. As according to Amnesty International, more than 60,000 people have gone missing in this country. Nearly 5,000 are our police and our soldiers of this country. And therefore, these families want to have closure. and these families want to know, right, how their loved ones, their sons or their daughters went missing. And therefore, this is a welcome step, and the government must take it forward. It is very important for the government to pursue these objectives very carefully, because otherwise these could have economic consequences. The United Nations Human Rights Council resolution in March 2021 indicated that Sri Lanka might lose its favorable status that we won with great difficulty in the 2015 government to restore the GSP Plus facility. We export nearly more than 2 billion euros of goods to Europe. More than 50% of those goods are to do with the garments industry and textiles. And there's also been a diversification of product using GSP Plus. Small and medium industries who have been selling their goods and products in the local market have begun to take that to overseas markets as exports. This is to be encouraged. I saw the Joint Apparel Association Forum saying the importance of maintaining GSP Plus, and the government should do everything possible. Our basically large market, it's only second to China, is Europe, and therefore we must maintain this large market, and everything needs to be done to maintain this large market.